Charles Oliveira came to the UFC fairly green, but notorious for his jiu-jitsu skills, eventually holding the record in the UFC for the most submissions. But as he's grown older and more skilled and more confident, he's become one of the most powerful, dynamic, and exciting strikers in the UFC. So let's take a look at what makes Oliveira's striking elite. That is, his stance and checks, his push kicks, building off of the collar tie, his ability to counterpunch, and having dynamic attacks. So let's start off with stance and checks. Oliveira, being a Brazilian, adopts a Muay Thai base for his striking. This is pretty obvious in the fact that he has a very narrow stance with a lot of his weight on his back leg and constantly lifting his lead leg to march forward. This is really good for throwing teeps and controlling distance and marching in under some form of defense in the check. It also acts as a really good fake, but Oliveira often just uses it to march into range and remain defensively responsible. He'll often check or lift leg, and then attack, and this just proves very effective throughout his fights. This is also really important when Oliveira is trying to check kicks. The light lead leg makes checking kicks easier, and what he often does is he'll lift his lead leg up and it won't even hit the shin, it'll kind of just go completely under it, almost like how Aldo checks calf kicks, and Oliveira will then use his opponent overswinging on the leg kick and use that to, grab a collar tie and punch off of it. He does this against Justin Gaethje quite a lot. Now, when Oliveira is being more aggressive and getting into longer exchanges where he needs to be a bit more dynamic with his defense, he'll widen his stance. Like against Poirer or against Michael Chandler in the second fight, he kept a long stance, and he'd exchange, then he'd pull out, then he'd go back in. And obviously you need a wider stance to perform pull counters. Just need a wider base to just move around your head and move around your feet a lot better. So he will mix up how he stands, but primarily he does stand in almost like a Muay Thai stance, lifting that lead leg, and it's very effective. Push kicks. Oliveira, obviously preferring a Muay Thai style of striking, uses the push kick very, very, very interestingly and very often. Obviously you can use it to control range, often using the lead push kick with the lead teep, made easier with that light lead leg. He used this a lot against Chandler in their first fight. However, Oliveira really prefers to attack with the rear push kick, digging into the gut violently throughout exchanges. He battered Poirier's body with this, gassing him out by the end of the first round. It's subtle, it's small, you don't think much of it, but I promise you, just watch his fights in slow motion and watch the effect it has. He digs hard. He doesn't do it to push away, he digs it to hurt and slow down his opponents. Obviously, he does this against Justin Gaethje as well, so aggressively and so much. Building off of the collar tie. Probably one of my favorite things about Oliveira's striking is how he varies his weapons building off of the collar tie. You've seen his fights with Poirier and Gaethje primarily, where he just, again, they go to swing at him, grabs the clinch, and he drills them with knees. Poirier was putting his foot on the gas in that first round of their fight after knocking down Oliveira and rocking him multiple times, and you saw every time that happened, Oliveira, if he wasn't going to the ground, he was grabbing and he was kneeing, and that it'd immediately change Poirier's tone and it'd get him to start backing up. And he, again, I said this before about the push kicks, he was beating up Poirier's body, and this is one of the ways he did it so well. The push kicks and the knees. He's really good at just drilling sharp knees into the body. He did this against Gaethje a lot as well, when Gaethje would overswing on punches or he'd overswing on a leg kick. Oliveira would use that as an opportunity to grab and the knee. He does this against Chandler a few times in their second fight, but he's just really good at being reactive to when punches are coming at him and just grabbing and kneeing and getting away. It's one of the best things about the knees is when someone's swinging out with you punches, if you can time a really good knee, their body is all the way stretched out. That knee is going to do so much more damage. Just really, really textbook stuff. Now, he doesn't just use the knees with the collar tie. He loves punching off the collar tie, particularly that uppercut. Just grabbing the head, making sure it stays still, and drilling in an uppercut, sometimes delivering a right hand afterwards. He's really good at doing this against gaethje, because gaethje ducks and rolls his head a lot. He keeps his head very low, so that was one of Oliveira's key weapons against gaethje. Gaethje would overswing in the leg kick. Oliveira would grab the collar tie, go for an uppercut. He'll mix it up. He'll go uppercut. He'll go right hand. He'll even slide in elbows when he can. But he's very good at being versatile off of different scenarios, and it's insanely good to watch, and it's definitely something people should take notes on and try to implement into their sparring. Counterpunching. Oliveira has developed some really, really good counterpunching. Now, because Oliveira was notorious for quitting, getting rocked, getting dropped, and he just generally seems like an easy target on the feet, opponents will often aggressively swing at him, more in particular poirer, gaethje, Chandler. And Oliveira, because he thrives in that kind of chaos, he just waits, and he's calm, and he counters. Against Poirer would overcommit massively with his left straight, and Oliveira would simply move ever so slightly out of the way, move his head off the center line, and draw that uppercut in over and over and over again. And later in the fight, where Poirer was overextending on right hooks and jabs, Oliveira would start countering with clean 1-2 combos, and eventually towards the end of the round started teeing off on Poirer really, really good. Against gaethje would heavily overswing, almost throwing himself, onto the ground. He even did on one occasion. And Oliveira would simply frame, right hand on multiple occasions, just chaining together some really good combos off of gaethje's just irresponsible striking defense. And obviously against Chandler, who does everything a bit overextendy, he just waited for Chandler to throw, counter, and almost was just playing with his food at that point. Dynamic attacks. Oliveira fights with a level of intensity that can rarely be matched, and doesn't mind sprinkling a little bit of flair in his fighting. Obviously, he loves the high kick, using it against Beneil Dariush and Michael Chandler, but he's very fond of jumping and skipping knees, using them quite a lot against Poirer and Michael Chandler in brief moments, and against Kevin Lee. He also loves the jumping switch kick, or just jumping front kicks to corral opponents and just get them backing up, along with spinning wheel kicks. He'll often use these big techniques when he's already got his opponents a bit wary of the striking, and he just wants to keep them on their toes, and it just adds, again, obviously, it also just adds a little bit of excitement to his game, just something a little fun that's just awesome to watch. A good fight to watch if you want to see this is his fight against Kevin Lee, where pretty much every strike he throws is jumping, spinning, or skipping. Just really awesome. It's clear that under the teachings of Diego Lima at Shooter Box, Oliveira has truly become an elite striker, contending with some of the best strikers at lightweight. Oliveira's future at lightweight is quite interesting, as he's already lost to Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. However, the fight with Arman Tsarukyan was very close, but Islam Makhachev may vacate the title to go up to welterweight, in which case Oliveira would fight Ilia Topuria. But if Topuria and Makhachev fight, the next matchup for Oliveira could be something like Paddy Pimblett. However, it's clear that whoever Oliveira fights next will be in for a very tough task. So, if you guys like the breakdown, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and see ya.